So, here we are. I've got to say, this plugin has hit me like a sledgehammer. Welcome, everybody, to this episode of Is It Shit? With me, Dan, and him, Sean. And we are in familiar territory, really, with... Pardon?
Very.
Yeah, very. Oxfordshire.
Ah, you live there?
I do live in Oxfordshire. Yeah. I'm not in Oxford. I'm not quite that posh. I'm close, but not quite that posh. However, Solid State Logic that manufacture the plugin that we're looking at today are based in Oxford.
They are.
As they put on the top of their plugins.
They do still put that. Yeah.
So why don't you introduce us to the particular plugin that we're looking at today, Solid State, Sean?
We are looking at the SSL G3 Multibuscomp, which, as you may be able to tell just by looking at it, is basically a G3 bus compressor, but there's three of them arranged in a multiband compressor format.
What a interesting idea.
I mean, what an awesome idea. Why didn't they do this years ago?
So what's the difference between a compressor and a multiband compressor, Sean?
So you have a wideband compressor, which compresses everything in one go. It compresses the whole signal.
Yep.
A multiband compressor lets you separate that out into different bands and compress those frequency bands separately. In this case, this is 3 bands.
Okay.
Although you can link them, so it could be just 2 bands if you want.
Cool. And so can we move the crossover points?
You can move the crossover points, between them, whether it's using it as 2 bands or 3 bands. All the same controls as the usual G-Bus compressor. It has a few extra things. So each band also has its own external sidechain. Each band. So that's pretty damn cool.
So what would you use that for?
So let's say you want to trigger the bottom end to pump from a kick drum, but you don't want the rest of the mix to be pumping like that. So you could only trigger the low end to do that, or whatever else. Really,
that's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
Sit your bass and your kick drum in your mix and with that. Yeah,
exactly. And previously, if you don't use a multiband for that, everything pumps. So this gives you the opportunity to just make a section of the frequency spectrum pump, which is good. It also has a drive control for each band, which adds harmonics, and you can add more or less to each of the 3 bands, which is really useful. You might want to really give the top end some, nice harmonics, but you don't want that happening down the bottom or in the vocal range in the middle. So that's a really nice thing.
So it seems, even though because it looks fairly simple, we were talking about this, but as we often do before we started, and the controls are quite basic on it, aren't they? But in fact, just the fact that it's multiband and the fact that you can use that drive, it makes it a very flexible and really plug-in. Yeah, exactly. And the other thing I found whilst testing it is that generally the SSL bus compressor style of compressor is great on the stereo bus, can be good in mastering, can be good in a drum bus situation, but you probably wouldn't use it very often in an individual track situation. But this is a great vocal compressor. So you use it on channel, on an input, on a bus.
Wherever you like. Yeah.
Really?
So, I mean, for vocals, it's really interesting because obviously you have quite often, if there's a lot of, not low end, but there can be like the proximity effect can trigger the compressor sometimes on a vocal. This gives you the opportunity to take that out. That can be a separate band that is compressed at a different ratio.
So, amazing. I've got a question.
Okay.
What does old shit for intense charges mean?
So that says hold shift for inverse changes. It's just a feature they've put on. It's really nice. So let's say you're driving the input. You would then have to bring the output down so that you're not just getting, what's the word? When something is louder, you would think it's better. You can't help that.
It's the auto gain thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the auto gain thing. So if you hold shift while you're driving the input, the output level comes down by the corresponding amount, which is really useful.
What was it that you said to me, however? I can do that myself.
Well, I can, and I like to do that myself. But, some people moan when there's no auto gain, so it's there if you want it.
I think auto gain is a great feature.
It can be.
I've got to say.
Yeah.
So is there anything else that you take? There was these grey buttons. External sidechain, is it?
Yeah, so that's the external sidechain. Next to that is the drive, which you can turn on or off and adjust the amount for each frequency band, which is really useful. You can bypass different parts of it. You can also solo each band, which is great for when you're setting it up to hear what it's doing. The input and output metering is great. You've also got the gain reduction meter in the middle. It's a very, very nice GUI to work with. Very easy.
So can we get a demo?
You can get a demo, 14-day demo.
Fully working.
Fully working.
And we always think that the people that give fully working 14-day demos, they have faith in their product, don't they?
Absolutely.
Because they know you're going to use it.
Yeah.
And if it's good and you need it, you're going to buy it.
100%. Yeah.
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 So, and again, moving on to if we were going to buy it, how much would it cost us?
It's $199. Or obviously SSL do a subscription.
Yep.
Where I think it's pretty cheap. It's about 15 quid a month for everything, which is good. I don't generally like subscriptions. I don't do any. But if you do want to work like that, you can. But $199, if this was hardware, I mean, I dread to think how much it would cost. One G-Bus compressor is, 1,500 quid or more. So you'd be looking at a severe outlay. So this is a great thing to have as a plugin.
So you are obviously Mr. SSL.
I do love their stuff.
Yeah, and we were talking again. You got the UF1, the control stuff.
And the UC one.
Yeah, and so they're obviously on this road where they're developing virtual stuff. They're developing hardware.
I think they've seen the light. I think they've realised that the days of selling multiple £100,000 consoles is not going to be their major source of income these days. But there are a lot of producers that will buy these controllers and like to work with plugins as well. So this is, I think they're on the right track.
Yeah,
I think the stuff looks good.
Of course, they used to sell £100,000 consoles when people could make money from making music. Do you remember those days, Sean?
I do remember those days. Yeah,
so do I vaguely.
Yeah.
Before you had to spend your life making 2-bit YouTube. Anyway, so.
Some truth in that.
Yeah. It looks great. It's SSL.
Yeah.
Sean, is it shit?
It's not shit at all. No, I think it's great. I think the price point puts it at that place where you need to have a think about whether you need it. I don't think it's a must buy. I think multi-band compression you have to be careful with. If you don't know how to use it, you can ruin your mixes with it. And there are alternatives out there. The Drama 1973 was it, or 74? I can't remember which one we looked at. That's very good. There's also an Analog Obsession multiband, which we're going to look at soon, which is pretty good. But this is the familiarity and the sound of the G-Bus compressor in a multiband setup. I think is going to win a lot of people over.
The thing is, I really, we appeal to many demographics, don't we?
We.
Yeah, we.
Oh, we. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we appeal to any demographics, Dan. Anyway, we keep going regardless.
But there is, if you're a bedroom producer making drum and bass, this isn't the sort of plugin you're going to be investing in, is it? But if you're somebody that is making money from mastering tunes, from mixing, this is the sort of thing you're going to be investing in.
Definitely. And if you are one of those guys, you're probably earning a living doing what you do. This kind of money is worth spending all day.
Great. Well, I will certainly be using the 14-day demo.
Yeah, give it a go. Honestly, it could be one of those plugins where when the demo runs out, you go, oh shit, I'll need it.
I've got to say, I quite like the idea of the individual side chains and the individual drives. That's the bit for me.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. So, anything more to add?
I don't think so.
Excellent. So,
covered it.
Please like the video.
Do that, and also subscribe to the channel so you know when we're putting out new videos.
Instagram 101,
and we have
Studio Life 101 on Instagram. Yeah,
that's the one. We also have a Patreon, and there's a load of links below where you can get involved and see more of what we do.
Yeah, so please do. Be great.
It would. We'll see you next time.
Ta-da.